What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Vlad the Bull, your #1 Embrace coach. And I want to let you know that my book, The Embrace Method, How to Leverage Your Trauma and Pain to Live the Life of Your Dreams, the second edition is now available on Amazon for purchase. Through heartfelt anecdotes, practical exercises, and profound insights, this book will show you how to confront your demons, heal your wounds, and emerge stronger and more resilient, ready to embrace a future with limitless possibilities. Remember, embracing your pain is the first step to transforming it into power. Be sure to get your copy today. And remember, embrace your struggles, embrace your successes, and most importantly, embrace yourself. Visit www.embracemethod.com to learn more about the Embrace Method book and the Embrace Framework.
Welcome to the Roots and Rhythm podcast, where we explore the essence of culture, our experiences, and a healing journey that shapes our growth and family. Through heartfelt stories about marriage, mental health, relationships, and parenting, we create a space where you can find connection, understanding, and inspiration. Join us as we explore the rhythms of life, one story at a time.
What's up, everybody? Yeah. Welcome to another episode of the Roots and Rhythm podcast, where we explore the rhythms of life, one story at a time. It's your boy, Vlad the Bull, your #1 Embrace coach, and I am joined by the lovely, the one and only
Angie, La Cyber Mommy
is in the building. We are in the building. We have a very, very special guest today, very special episode, and I can't wait to introduce them to you. So before we do that, we like to do a check-in. Angie, what is new with you?
What is new? Back to school. The kids are back in school. Vacation is done. My house is no longer Christmas town. Everything is cleaned up, ready to go. We're ready to go.
Yeah, buddy.
Holidays where? Away.
I always find it amazing just how much pickup is involved after the kids go back to school. I'm just like, dang, I got to have like a month transition period.
Right. Well, the best thing I ever did, Vlad, was take this week off work. I'm going to do it every year for the rest of my life.
You're going to do it every year?
I am. I'm going to work through the holidays because it's so slow, and at first I was like, oh, I should take the weeks off because the kids are home and, they're going to be in my face. But literally there was no work to be done. I don't even know why they just allowed us to be at work doing pretty much nothing. I did so much cleanup. I took some certifications that I needed, for my position.
Oh,
and and then I'm off this week when it gets busy again. Heavenly.
I like
highly
it.
recommend
I like
if you're able to.
Well, what I was really impressed is when you said the tradition is to usually clean up the whole entire house
before the first
New Year, which is I don't know if it's a Caribbean tradition.
It is a Caribbean thing.
My mom and I, it used to be so stressful going into the New Year. And I got to a point where I'm like, why are we stressing ourselves out?
I get to decide. I'm the grown up now.
Yeah.
And I ain't going to do it anymore. So yes, no.
So we used to see the
stress free.
Not the essence. I don't know how to say that in English. It's not sage, but it's something else.
Incense.
Yeah. So my mom would be doing that, praying in every room, throwing rice in every room. We found rice in our son's crib, and I was like picking the grains out. My mom was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Mom, I want my boy eating no grains of rice." She's like, just put it on this side.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like you have to do all the chores before the New Year, and then specifically you can't wash clothes on the first of the year because then you're gonna wash someone out of your life.
See, that was new to me.
Yeah, so I was like, whatever. I didn't do it though because just in case. But I didn't clean up and go crazy and deep clean everything. I picked up and I did stuff, but I wasn't so focused on it has to be clean for the new year. It's like I'm using January as a buffer month. So I'm doing a little bit. I took this week off. I organized the girls' room. I took all the clothes that don't fit. And that's a full-time job right there. There's so much randomness. But I'm using January as a buffer month for the rest of the year. So I'm doing a little bit here, a little bit there. And then my deadline in my mind is February 1.
February 1st.
Yeah, because that's Lunar New Year anyway.
And it's also Julie,
I know their birthday. Yeah, their birthday.
So why not? That's a great place to start.
So, but you know what I also love?
What do you love?
For people to subscribe.
Right there.
Hit the subscribe button, please, and thank you.
Yeah, hit the subscribe button so you can get this out to your networks. Roots and Rhythm is on the ascension. Did I say that correctly? Maybe. We are on the ascension, and we'd love for you to be a part of this journey. Yes. So if you want to be a guest on our show, if you love what you hear and you need somebody to hear what you hear, then make sure you hit the subscribe button,
Yes.
share this in your circles so that we can get this out to the people who need to hear it.
Mhm.
So without further ado,
Yes,
I can't contain myself, because if I have to contain myself,
drum roll,
I am going to be red
introductions.
in the brown. You understand what I'm saying? You ever see a black face turn red?
Nope.
Mhm.
So let's not start today.
let's
Go
not
ahead
do it
and
today.
read this, Vlad.
So I want to introduce a very special guest, somebody that I know through my channels, and we were both part of the Monetize Your Ministry community. Shout out to Kimon Hines. You know, he's a very staunch advocate of people sharing their ministry in the faith-based space, but also bringing your ministry to the corporate space, right? So that's how we met. And this person that we're going to introduce is none other. She lives up to the acumen of a speaker, right?
Yes.
So check this out. Who we're about to introduce is an author, a motivational speaker, and the founder of Dorian Inspires. All right, check this out. Dorian Inspires LLC, by the way, LL Sizzle. You see that with the C? Okay.
Legit.
She's legit, okay? She's the creator of the Promise Pals Children book series and the Made series, which empowers children and teens to navigate identity, grief, and courage, and self-worth through faith-based affirmations and relatable stories, which aligns with Roots and Rhythm, exploring the stories one beat at a time, right?
Amen.
Inspired by her journey as an adoptive mother, Dorian is passionate about helping people separate who they are from what they've experienced. Come on with it. With over 20 years of experience, Angie, with working with youth, families, and educators, she also extends this work to teens and young adults through her book, How Not to Get Hired, helping them avoid common mistakes, build confidence, and step into purpose as they enter the workforce. Dorian is married to Patrick Stewart, and they are the proud parents of their daughter, Nyla. Originally from Brooklyn, New York. Shout out Brooklyn. That's where my cousin Steve is from. Brooklyn. I don't know if you knew that. Our wife, I guess it's our wife too. My wife is in the group Roots and Rhythm studio. Shout out Julie. Hi, baby. I love you. I don't know if she knew that, but Brooklyn is in the house, originally from Brooklyn, New York, with Jamaican roots, right in line with the palm trees. Let's go with it.
Right.
She brings cultural depth, authenticity, and heart to everything she creates. Talk about inspiration.
Yes.
So without further ado, I would love for you all to welcome into the Roots and Rhythm community, Miss Dorian Stewart.
Dorian. Hey,
welcome to the Roots and Rhythm podcast. Girl, how are you doing? Let's just get it in.
I am awesome. Thank you so much for inviting me. I appreciate, and I'm so excited to talk to you guys today.
Yeah. So do us a favor, Dorian. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I know it's a cliche question, but tell us a little bit about yourself.
Your roots.
Your roots. We'd love to hear more about how you became an author, a motivational speaker, and what was the inspiration behind Dorian Inspires? That's not a quagmire, right? Dorian, inspiration behind Dorian. Right.
So, wow. So, yes, both my parents are from Jamaica. I am a firstborn American citizen here. And my parents, wanted something more for us. I am the oldest of three siblings. So shout out to my brother Douglas and Kay. And interesting enough, I really enjoyed writing. I got into college. I went to Morgan State and I got straight C's. And I was like, maybe writing isn't for me. And I was like, okay, that's not happening. I'm just going to go into healthcare. But I was going through some struggles in my first and, second and third job, whichever one you want to pick. But I was going through struggles and I got the idea to write daily devotionals to my friends. So I would send it to one or two friends and all of a sudden they started emailing it to their coworkers and coworkers were giving it to their coworkers. And if one person was out for the day, they was like, I didn't get my devotion. And they would send me a message and say, hey, so-and-so is giving me, your message. Can you just give it to me directly? I just want to cut the middle person out. And before I knew it, I was sending it out to 200 people on a daily basis, like just sending out devotions day to day from Monday to Friday. And someone was like, you need to put this in a book. And I was like, absolutely not. I can't write. Mind you, I've been doing this now for like months. And I'm like, absolutely not. No. And I put it on the shelf. I even printed them, gave them to my grandmother, my mom. And they was like, this is good. You should put a book. Absolutely not. And my husband was like, no, get it done. You need to do this. Somebody needs to hear the message.
Come
And so
on.
I did it. It was called My 2 Cents, based off of a Bible verse about a woman who gave her 2 cents, and that's all that she had.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I
Yes.
said, that's all I got. There you go. And God laughed at it. And then we began our adoption story and going through the training. I was like, wow, look at all these kids and how they feel about adoption or what's portrayed to them about adoption. I told my husband I'm going to write one book to let people and kids know that they are chosen, cherished, and loved. And God laughed at that. And 19 books later, here we are still inspiring children and young adults on kind of just moving into their walk of life. So that's how it started.
19 books.
I was
Dorian.
gonna say, can we pause real quick? Can we just acknowledge the fact that you said 19 as in 19, correct? Did I not hear that?
Yes.
I thought she was saying 19, like, you know how Usher said 11 hours? It's like a 19.
Arbitrary number.
Yeah.
No, that's okay, author.
What?
Love it.
And so I also want to, we obviously talk about relationships a lot and how marriage inspired. I mean, marriage inspired this podcast. Let's just acknowledge how beautiful it was that you had this idea for something that you know that God put inside of you to share with the world. You shared it with your friends. They were sharing with their coworkers. You're like, yo, I'm remembering those seeds, bro. Like, I don't know who you trying to have write a book. And I think that happens to a lot of authors, right? Where you have a story, you have a message that you want to get out there, but then you start getting those seeds of doubt.
Well, and even to what Dorian shared first, she was like, I got straight C's in college. Anybody, because again, we start playing this thing in our mind. So it's like, well, who am I to be an author? I got C's in college.
Right.
And it's like, that's just like one level of who you are. It's not even who you are as a whole, So I'm glad that you didn't let that stop you.
Yeah. So you mentioned your adoptive daughter. Could you share with the audience just a little bit, as much as you're comfortable, about what that's like to be an adoptive mother, and particularly adoptive mother of color?
Yes. So we don't necessarily see a lot of children being adopted by African American parents. One, it costs a lot. I'm not even going to sugarcoat that part.
Right.
And the process is a lot, especially depending on kind of the process that you go through. I went through an agency, and they did take the time for us to really learn and understand what we were walking into. So we understood the emotions that adoptive kids may have, whether it be around their birthday or as they get older, some of their feelings towards adoption, they're being different from their friends and peers because they don't necessarily have a birth. They do have a birth mom. Let me correct that. They do have a birth mom, but they're not living or with their birth parents. And so they kind of struggle with different feelings towards that. And so we went through a lot of training for that. And this particular agency really kind of instilled that in us. Like, how are you going to celebrate different cultures if they're, triracial or biracial? How are you going to celebrate that? Making sure that they feel seen in every kind of way. How do you protect your child when there are things being said about adoption, depending on who they are? So they even look at, I'll give you a prime example. There was an Italian guy who was adopting someone who is Native American.
Wow.
How do you celebrate Columbus Day?
Wow.
Right?
I did not even consider that.
Yeah.
I did not even consider that.
It's Indigenous Peoples Day in Massachusetts.
Exactly. And how do you then kind of, you have your culture and now you have your children's culture. How do you bring that together? What do you do to make sure that they feel safe and that you are still trying to kind of share cultures? So we learned all of those things, and just taking the time to really kind of look through all of those things. And so it was a difficult process. It was a long process. And, I always tell people, when we started the process, it was the very first day that the pandemic and the shutdown began. We were expecting to begin the process. People were supposed to come to our house to inspect our house. And they was like, come back when the pandemic is over.
Which back then could have been any time.
Right.
Nobody knew what was going
They
on.
really, I feel like initially they were like, oh, like 2 months. Oh, a few weeks. You know, I feel like the pandemic just ended. Like maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, you know?
You know, I think that it's when we were going through the pandemic, there were so many things that were put on hold, loans put on hold. A lot of people lost their jobs, layoff, restaurants closed. And I think I forgot to think about the social service programs that were disrupted as well. Reminiscent of what's going on now with the funding cuts, you know? So it was something as important as adoption. Like that is a huge change for everybody involved, for the adoptive parent, for the child. And so for you to be investing so much time and energy into that, for it to then be on hold, you know, what was that? What was that like? How did you guys navigate that as a family?
So it was pretty difficult and hard to take, because in the process, one thing, it's like a domino effect. So you have to complete number one to kind of get through the entire process. But we actually took that time to actually learn more and understand the full process. And so we did more classes than what was actually required of us. We tried to understand how children will feel. We looked at videos and shows and TVs and movies about adoptions, whether it's good or bad, but what did we want to be able to share with her or him, because we didn't know what was going to have, and make sure that we were being intentional and studied up on what it would feel like if we kept it from her, which was not our plan. But then also, we also joined a social group that was kind of private, like a adoptive parents social group, so that we could learn some more things from other people going through the process who may have been ahead of us, and use that time to kind of prepare. So while the government was shut down and the world was shut down, I was preparing things, like I was buying small items for a child that we didn't know, that we didn't have a clue as to what we were going to have, but I was buying guardrails for the staircase and outlet covers, because as it relates to adoptive children, your house has to be prepared before they're even born. So whenever the social worker comes in, what you would purchase maybe when they're crawling, I had to have before they were even born.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So yeah, you didn't even have time to gradually get the things and learn that process organically. You just had to be all set already, right?
Had to be all set. And so every paycheck, we would buy a little thing, something, outlet covers, guardrails, toilet seat covers or protectors, all of that, so that they knew we were ready and prepared to have a child.
Wow. And how old was your child when you adopted it? Was it a boy or a girl? It was a girl.
It was a girl. Her name is Nyla. And we got her at 1 month, but we met her like a week or two after she was born. So the parents had already chose us beforehand, but we didn't get a chance to meet her till after she left the hospital, because again, you weren't allowed to have visitors due to COVID.
Wow. Now, you mentioned earlier that when you were starting to send those affirmations, those devotionals to your friends and the people in your circle, it was all based around that Bible verse about the woman who only had her 2 cents, right? So I think it's safe to say that you're a believer.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I love that. I love that. So as a believer, what did adoption teach you about God's love? This is going to be a deep one. What did it teach you about God's love that motherhood alone may not have revealed to you?
So God's love is chosen. Wow. It's not unconditional. And so when you think about a child that you have, you're going to love that person because it's from you. It's yours. No matter what your child, your son, your daughter does, you're going to love that child. I have to choose to love our daughter. And it is that, and constantly remind her that she is chosen, she is cherished, she is loved. And that's what God does for us. No matter what we do, no matter what kind of problems we get ourselves into, God still chooses us. He actually, chooses to love us. He cherishes us no matter what we do, what happens, no matter what path or routes that we go. That allows for us to know that we're chosen. So I choose to love her. And not saying that you guys don't either who are birth parents, but there was a conscious decision to say, I'm going to love a child that's not from me directly, but then bring her into our family. And then also, because I come from a big family, all of my extended family also had to then choose her and love her and understand our decision to adopt.
Hey everybody, it's your boy Vlad the Bull, your #1 embrace coach. Listen, I know that you are enjoying this Roots and Rhythm podcast episode, but I want to take a minute to talk to my fellas. Let's talk energy and vitality. If you've been feeling low, sluggish, or not quite yourself in the bedroom, it's time to check out the Natural E-Man. It's a powerful, all-natural men's supplement created by a good brother I trust, Dr. Quentin Cancel, someone I met in my men's group who's all about holistic health and real results. Trust me, I've seen the impact firsthand. So if you're ready to level up your energy, confidence, and performance, visit naturaleman.com and feel the difference. That's naturaleman.com. The link's in the show notes. All right, y'all, let's get back to the podcast.
I mean, I don't know about you, Angie, but some days, not every day, but some day I have to remind myself to choose to love this boy when he's driving me nuts. Cause you know what I mean?
Facts. And I'm sure you go through this too, Dorian. Sometimes I'm like, this is a prayer that I wanted. This is she's a blessing. She's a blessing. She's a blessing. Cause they be pushing them buttons.
and I don't know if you experienced this, Dorian, but I'm sure you have actually. But what I've realized about having a child, especially if it's your first child, during that infant period, is that you're not your best self, right?
Yeah.
Because especially if you've never done it before. Like we didn't have a lot of experience with babies, and so I felt like it was just dragging on and on, and it was impossible. It was pushing.
And sometimes Vlad will say things to me like, "Oh, I can't believe Lido did this," and I'm like, "Vlad, it's developmentally okay for him to do that."
Right.
He's never been here before. He is 3 years old.
Well,
and we forget because again, it's not our normal, but it's like that's how kids are supposed to act.
Well, you know what? I'm actually glad you brought that up because Dorian, this is something. Having your Jamaican roots, Jamaica and Haiti, let's just say on this podcast, Jamaica and Haiti love each other on this podcast, okay? Look, we've got Dominican Republic and Haiti in one shot, and we got Jamaica over here, so Haiti ain't got no rivals.
I know, and I'm an immigrant, so I'm straight from the motherland.
Straight from the motherland.
Listen, especially when you live in the South, you learn to embrace all of the Caribbean because we are one. It's not like, hey, Jamaica's over there, Haitians over there. No, you hand me my black rice, you give me my soup in January because I feel that if I don't get my soup in January, the rest of 2026 is not going to go right. So
facts. Literally, that's what we did on the first. We got our soup jumu.
That's right. Liberty soup it should be enjoyed by everybody because unbeknownst to a lot of people, Haiti, when Haiti won its independence in 1804, went on to help liberate the rest of Latin America. And
Jamaica too.
And Jamaica. And so these trivial, rivalries and animosity between the countries, when we realize like, yo, listen, when you're in America, ain't nobody looking at you different.
No.
Okay? We're all lumped into one. So the more that we can learn to work together, the better. But going back to the parenting thing, I think what was happening for me as well is that I don't know how my parents parented me when I was an infant.
Right.
And so all I really had as a benchmark was how they parented me as an adult, right? And so, or not as an adult, but as an older child. So I'm like, yo, man, I realized something. I'm like, because in the Caribbean household, everything is just straight. Don't do that. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't do this. There's no explanation for it.
Because I said so.
Because I said so. I'm your parent, and that's where you listen. So, I'm sure that was maybe something that you guys had to acclimate to as well. But yeah. I mean, I'm just happy to see. I don't see a lot of. I'm be honest with you. I haven't met a lot of African American or even Caribbean American adopted parents, right? And it wasn't until I met my wife and we started talking about adoption that I realized like, yo, adoption happens all the time in the Caribbean. It's just not called adoption.
It's very taboo, I think, for in our cultures to adopt a unknown baby. I feel like in the Caribbean, it's a lot of kinship adoption.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, my sister is going through something, I'm going to adopt my niece. And that's like, now I'm her mom, but I'm really her aunt type situation. So things like that, but never like this agency or this like bigger picture has children, let's go adopt. And I don't want to call them random babies, but someone that's not related to us. So yeah, it's still very taboo. People are like, oh, you shouldn't adopt it because you don't know that family, or yeah. But I think it's beautiful. I think, like, to your point, Dorian, for you to choose to love a child and choose that child, it's like, how can she not feel love to be chosen, So I think that's beautiful. And I have a question, about all your books and everything like that. How do you help children separate their identity from their origin story, specifically when the story includes loss or trauma? Not to go into your daughter's story, but obviously, her parents decided to put her up for adoption. So how do you help her navigate that?
So for us, we try to make sure that she understands that the decision that was made out of love.
Yes.
They recognize that they could not do it. And so they chose to place her up for adoption to give her a better life. And so when it comes to children and whatever they may be going through, it is important for us as parents to find that positive affirmation in there. So for her, yes, she is adopted. That's awesome. But the bigger picture is that you are chosen, you are cherished, and you are loved. If there is a child going through, let's say, depression or anxiety, you are protected. And who's going to do that? That's me as your parent. So you know that you are protected, that you are going to be comforted for you. We are going to listen and be there for you. And it's so important that we change the narrative and make it a positive. And then we have our kids speak it. So from our standpoint, every morning, our daughter has an affirmation jar. And God forbid if I forget, pull out that affirmation jar. But she can't read, but she can spell. And so it's I am, and she spells it, and I tell her what that word is. So I am happy, or I am a leader, whatever that may be. And we explain it because I want her every day to walk into her day having some type of affirmation to say, I am chosen, I'm loved, I'm a leader.
Yes.
I love that. I love that. And I think we underestimate how soon you should actually be doing that stuff with kids and how much it really means to them. Something Lito does all the time. I'll just be messing around with Lito, or Jules will be messing around and say, hey, Lito, are you a dinosaur? Because he loves dinosaurs now. It's dino time. And we have dinosaurs all over our house. So like his playroom is like an anthropological, like an archaeological, playground. You know what I'm saying? And I'll say, Lito, are you a dinosaur? And he'll say, no, I'm a Lito.
I'm Lito.
I was like, oh, yes. And that's the type of confidence that you need for a child. And you can speak to this better, Dorian. How important is it with the affirmations? Obviously, that's in your wheelhouse, right? That's like when you had your 2 cents, you still got them 2 cents. You got an endless supply of 2 cents, right?
Yeah.
How important is it to help a child who you've adopted and brought into your family develop and build their identity and have that level of confidence? Obviously, you said you have to help them navigate conversations about their origin story, which we take for granted is having connections to our biological families. I never had to explain my mom was my mom or that my dad was my dad. Although sometimes when they acting up, I'm like, oh yeah, that's my dad. We kind of related, but not really. Like we're like, it's a loose term. But yeah, so what was that like navigating, building those, really honing in on making sure their identity was ironclad?
So from the very beginning, we when we prayed for her, we always pray for birth mom, birth dad, and sisters. As we navigate her close friends, and the parents that she's around, we let them know that she is adopted. And so some people are like, oh, don't tell her that. No, we're going to tell her that because there's no shame in being adopted. And I want her to grow up understanding that there's no shame in that, and that her parents made that decision in love, not out of shame, not out of anything else, but out of just knowing that I want something better for you. I could have made other decisions about you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we chose to raise you, grow you, and then put you in for adoption, or put you up for adoption. And I get that that's not everyone's story, but we had to make sure that we protect her, in that there are certain things that we wanted to make sure that we're not shielding her from certain things, but that we're protecting her space about adoption. And so her close friends who we hang out with, all of their parents know that she's adopted. We don't share the full story, but they
Right.
do know enough that she is protected in those spaces. When she goes to school, we're very careful about, because we know at some point she's going to have to do a family tree.
Right.
Mhm.
How are we going to navigate that? We're obviously going to let her lead that, but we are not going to let her leave out the fact that she does have a unique type of family structure. And we do acknowledge, and we made a promise to her birth parents that we will always keep them in kind of the remembrance of that yes, we're always going to acknowledge that she's adopted, and that decision was made out of love. So that's always going to be part of our her story. We're not going to leave that out, but it's also about being basically protecting her of who she is and how unique she is by being adopted.
Yeah. And I like that you shared that you're going to let her lead that, because I think what happens a lot of times, and I think the agency in your decision to have is it called semi-open? Is that the term you use? Okay.
Ours is semi-open.
Yeah, semi-open adoption. So when she gets older and does have those questions, she knows where to go. And I think that's what happens a lot of times, especially with transracial adoptees. They don't have anywhere to go to get those answers. They weren't raised in their home culture. They don't know who to go to. They maybe
Right.
can't even find those people even after trying when they get, of age. So I think that's going to really help her, especially when she comes into her own and gets like to be the woman that she's meant to be like, hey, I have these questions. My adoptive mom has helped me all this time, but now it's like I need like those deeper answers, and I know where to go to find them because you did that work, Dorian. So
right. And
I think that's great.
Sorry. It's also so important that I want her to know that she can come to us with those questions, even if we don't want her to feel like ashamed that she wants to know about her birth parents. We want to be able to help her. I've seen so many stories where they go out there, they get swindled with money, or, because they're so interested in wanting to find out more about their birth parents, they don't tell their adoptive parents, or they don't feel comfortable in talking about it. And then they get themselves in bigger or worse scenarios or situations.
Yes.
We want her to be able to do that. So even when she wants to talk about adoption and we don't want it because we're busy and we don't want to, we still have to stop, because we have to carve out time that she knows that whenever she wants to talk about it, that we're there, and she doesn't feel like she can come to us and talk about it.
No, that's wonderful, because again, I feel like sometimes they're like, oh, well, I don't want to look for my birth parents or ask about them because I don't want my adoptive parents to be upset or that I don't love them, but I do. You know what I mean? Like that gray area of what ifs. But I feel like you guys have that open communication where it's like, she's not going to feel like that. So I think that's wonderful. It's so great.
Yeah, and it's a testament too to how much you and your husband immersed yourself in community, right?
Yes.
Because had you not done that, had you not read the books, had you not joined the clubs, had you not interacted with other adoptive parents who are going along the same journey or who have been beyond where you are, then you might have ended up doing what many adoptive parents do, not by any fault of their own, but just winging it.
Yeah, because they don't have the tools. So it's like, oh, I'm just going to do this because it feels right versus like, this is what's right.
Right. And parents in general, we all wing it to a degree, right? But it's how we're...
I still are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Parents, somebody told me this long before we had kids. They said there's no rule book, there's no rubric. You just do it. You just jump in and you do it, and you're gonna make mistakes. I remember my therapist told me that you're gonna mess up your kid a little bit. When he said that, I'm like, oh, sir,
not me.
Don't you do that to me. I'm not gonna mess up my kids like my parents did to me. He's like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you're going to do your best and you're going to do well based on what you know. If you're driven to by having more information to be informed as a parent, then you're going to be great, man. But like, look at you, human. And so if you're flawed, there's no way you're not going to flaw your kids a little bit. But it's what is the process, as you just described, when your daughter's asking about adoption or about her birth family? What is that process? And so having that door open is going to ensure that you both feel comfortable about the conversation. Because what I like to say, right? Shame is not a motivator, it's a multiplier. So when you add shame in any scenario about any topic, it might motivate somebody to change their behavior, right? Like if you just shame, like, how dare you ask about where your real parents are, right? She might have been like, okay. And she might have done what you wanted her to do, which is stop asking me questions. This is making me uncomfortable. But it would only multiply the issues that would drive the behavior later that is probably going to be, problematic, like you said. And that's how a lot of kids get swindled or get into inappropriate relationships with their birth families, because that's how it goes. So good on you. I want to turn the focus to your books, all right? Because we can't be talking about 19 books and just be like, just gloss over that.
Books.
I mean, Mrs. Stewart, please.
Yeah, and we're gonna have the link in the episode description of where you can find her books too.
Yes, we will. Make sure you check the episode description. So my question about your books is like this, Dorian. Okay, so your books spotlight children the world often misses or forgets about, right? Or they overlook. So what does God's idea of a hero look like compared to ours?
So, the new series that I wrote. So the initial one was Promise Pals. So it was very faith-based, but I realized that as I was going to read in schools, they were like, "Oh, you have God, you have Scripture," especially in the public schools. So I was like, I'm going to create a whole new series called I Am Made, which basically means I am motivated, affirmed, determined, and empowered.
Ooh, say it again for the audience. I think they missed that.
All right. So it means I Am Made means I am motivated, affirmed, determined, and empowered.
Come on.
And so these are unlikely heroes. So they're kids that are in wheelchairs. They're kids that have autism. They're kids that are nonverbal or blind. And they get to be the hero. They're not waiting for someone to save them. They're not waiting for someone to take their wheelchair by the hand and push them across the finish line. They are the hero. We don't necessarily see kids, whether minorities or as being the hero in their experience. And so they tend to be left out of stories. How do they get to know that they are more than just spina bifida? They're more than just, I have autism. They're more than just ADHD. And so the new series is really kind of zoning in and celebrating your life history or your life experience, but then showing that you can be a winner, you can be successful in whatever you're placed in. So I never want kids to feel like, oh, I have this, so that's why I can't. You can, and it doesn't matter what that. It may be a little harder for you. You may have to work a little bit, put a little bit more effort in, but you still be able to kind of win in whatever it is that you want to do.
All right, listen. First of all,
right,
you made the child in me feel so safe just now. Because we were talking on our last episode that we recorded about ADHD specifically. And I got diagnosed 2 years ago, which was not a surprise to me. Yeah. And I believe you got diagnosed
like
recently.
A month ago.
Yeah. And so having that diagnosis later in life is interesting. And it made me reflect back on childhood. Like, what would that have felt like if somebody explained to me why I was always getting kicked out of class, or why I couldn't sit still, or why my teachers would yell at me because I'd be drawing all over my notebooks while they're talking. Like, Vlad, you're not listening. Yeah. I'm like, I am listening.
Right.
I have to do
girls,
this. Right?
Girls are, I feel like women get diagnosed later in life because we are so good at masking. Yeah. And we're so good at just being goody two-shoes perfectionists. Because I tell Vlad all the time, before I even knew this, but my sister called it out like years ago. And I was like, yeah, whatever. But I'm a recovering perfectionist because everything had to be the way it had to be. And I've just learned to let go since I met my husband, because he just allows me to let go. I don't feel like I have to, perform in that way anymore. But since the diagnosis, I'm like, this just makes so much sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I had a book that it's okay, this explaining it in a kid way, that, maybe this is why my brain works this way, for me to like, hey, mommy, I think I have this, to even ask the doctor. Because again, they weren't checking girls for ADHD back in the day.
Nah, man.
That's for boys.
Yeah. Well, they were. Well, that's why I was like, listen. So I was like, okay. I started talking to my siblings after in pursuit of this diagnosis, and I was like, okay, my brother had an IEP. because he had autism.
Mhm.
I didn't know that until I got my ADHD diagnosis, right? And then my cousins also who grew up with us in the same house, they also all had IEPs. And I almost kind of felt left out. Like, why didn't I get an IEP? And, you know, and it's like, why can't I get some of that? And I used to see kids get this the time out of the classroom with specific subjects. And I love that it's the message in your books is that it's not a handicap. And that's really important in the education space, as you know, because oftentimes kids almost feel like they're being othered or they're almost just getting in the way of the educational experience because their brains don't work in the same way or pace as everybody else's. Our brains still work. They just work a little differently. We just need a few more pictures. Maybe we need to jump up and down for 5 seconds. I tell the classic story of I was in humanities in 8th grade. And you know, back in the day, Dorian, when you used to have to sit in the desk community, it was like 4 people to a desk community. And so I'm sitting there just fidgeting with my paper going back and forth like this. And then my friend, who I used to goof around with, just took the paper and just threw it off the desk. And I thought it was the most hilarious thing ever. And I forgot that my teacher was teaching the class. And so suddenly I start hearing the background noise. There's no background noise. I'm like, and she's just staring at me. She's like, go to that community. I'm like, all right. So I'll go over there. And then something happens over there and she kicks me out to. So basically there's about 5 communities and I get sent to every single one.
Vlad, she couldn't separate you. You can't make a yapper stop talking.
You can't make a yapper stop yapping.
Yap.
So you know what she did, Dorian?
I'm everybody's friend.
She was like, yo, because they used to call me V back then. And they said, yo, V, go. She's like, just go. There's a couch that was behind that you should sit. You could sit there
like
when you
read
a book.
Stuff,
She's like, just go sit on the couch and stare at the wall until the rest of the class. And oh man, I remember she was so frustrated with me, and I remember how that felt. And she asked me, "What's wrong with you?" Like, or not more so like, "What's wrong with you?" But it's like, what happened today? Why was it so difficult? And I looked at her and I said, I have no idea. And I had some idea. Some of it is what was going on at home, but I can't talk about that because Caribbean people always tell you talk about your family.
Yeah, you don't talk about what happens in this house somewhere else.
What happens in the house stays in the house.
Right.
Yeah.
My parents used to my mom used to say, you go yapping to the school, they're gonna call DSS.
Oh yeah. Do you wanna go live with other people? They're not gonna feed you. No one's gonna love you like your mom. Yeah. A hot mess. Man. But yeah, I feel like teachers didn't have the tools back in the day for all that because now my sister has 2 boys and she went to go read in the classroom and the teacher in her son's classroom lets him stand up and he's like standing up reading, bouncing up and down.
That's so cool.
Right. So then my sister's like, Henry, sit down. And then the teacher, Henry's the only child in here that could be standing up right now. Because she knows that that's the way that he learns. Like he can't sit still, and it's just so great, like for teachers to be able to know, like, which child needs extra help or to fidget for a little bit.
Now, Dorian,
go ahead. I think it's so important that as children, if they understand their diagnosis and what they're going through as well, they can also help guide and say, well, this is what I do, or this is, kind of advocate for themselves as they get older. So it's not being rude, it's not being disrespectful, but if they understand who they are in that process, then they're able to kind of advocate for themselves. If mom and dad or whoever understands that, and it's so important that as parents, we're taking the time to kind of educate them and so that they can also advocate for themselves when mom and dad is not around.
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge. And before we go to shift gears a little bit, I do want to ask, and again, share as much as you feel comfortable. Was there, when the Maid series, right? Was there any particular motivation for advocating for kids or showcasing kids as heroes who may be seen as, I don't know, leftovers or raw material because they have ADHD or because they're autistic? Is that something that's personal, or is it just kind of a broad motivation?
So, when you go into different schools, and my sister's a teacher, I actually I don't use it, but I have a degree in health education.
Come on.
So I did not see myself being a teacher or being a part of the education realm. My degree is in health education and healthcare management. I was like, I'll just do that because it's part of the requirement. But I really want to do business. And I realized that as I was interacting with kids, because I volunteer at like Pathfinders kind of like Boys and Girl Scouts, I realized that there were kids that really needed additional support and help. And what other people saw as a problem child and they were being left out, or, well, since you can't sit still, sit over there in the corner. No disrespect to your teacher, but that was not necessarily the way. And so for me, it was just like, man, that's rough. How do we figure out a way to incorporate them, include them, even in their ADHD or their autism, and not make them feel like what they have is a problem? If they're in a wheelchair, how do we incorporate that? If you're going to jump up and down, what can they do to then still feel like they're part of the class or part of the team? And it always breaks my heart to see when they're kind of excluded or kind of tossed off at the side. So,
yeah. And I've read somewhere that it's like, it's not a disability, it's another ability, because the kids aren't, focusing on this thing. Like, they might not be good at this, but they have so many other things to offer that it's just kind of like helping them find what that thing is.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's all about inclusion, right?
Yep.
And as you said, Dorian, inclusion for the kids, acknowledging them and their unique abilities not only helps them advocate for themselves, but it also helps the other children in the room who are not neurodiverse understand how to support a peer.
Yes, Vlad, because again, we are always so focused on getting the neurodivergent child or the child that has whatever's going on to acclimate and kind of like be in that community. We should be teaching the majority how to be understanding and make things accessible for that one person. It's always going the other way, the way of and I don't want to say normal, but the way of whatever society expects, instead of getting society to be more welcoming.
And so most times when I talk to parents about my books, they're like, well, my child isn't in a wheelchair. No, but your child can learn about empathy for someone who may be in a wheelchair or who may be adopted or who may have ADHD. It's not just for the child that has that disability. How do we teach our kids to have empathy and to kind of embrace them and kind of make sure that they're all together and not in an exclusion as growing up? So,
and I think toys a lot of times, especially now, because again, my kids are 6 and 3, but the little people toys. Because
I'm not around the girls all the time, but
they just turned
6
and they just turned 3. I know, Vlad, they're not babies, but I know. But anyway, the little people toys. Wow. They have one that is in a wheelchair. They have one that has not alopecia. What is it called? Vitiligo with the skin.
Yeah.
They have one that's missing a limb. Like, they make the toys for all kids. So it's like your kid is seeing these toys, or people, if you have a diverse group of friends that are these things. So when they see someone at a grocery store, they're not pointing and asking you like, why is that like that? And again, they're just curious.
Yeah.
But it's like, if they're already exposed, they're not going to think of it as this wild thing. It's just another person that belongs in society.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important. Have diverse books, toys, people, so they don't think it's like this weird thing or weird person.
It's just going to add in that buy your child those toys as well. Like, the wheelchair child in the wheelchair may have, whatever disability it may be. It's not just for them. If you bring it into your home, then your child now gets to see this from a day-to-day basis, and they get to understand that it's not like, what is that? Like you said, they're now, hey, everybody's different. We have a unique people in our society, and we embrace all of them. So it shouldn't just be wheelchair stories and toys for the wheelchair-bound child, but for everyone, so they all get to understand kind of what's in our society.
Yeah, because the reality is, when a child is, whether it's a developmental disorder, neurodivergence, whatever you want to call it, they're not always just going to be around people who are like them or who have similar I don't want to call them ailments, but have similar challenges, right?
Mhm.
And so, one thing I always used to think my brother and I was so different
Mhm.
because we're 6 years apart. And we just, there was a lot of other things going on, but like we were just so different. One day I asked him, like, yo, why are we so different? Why can't we get along?
Mhm.
And he's like, I just think we're different people. And back then I didn't know, and our
Mhm.
parents didn't know, like, yo, you made two neurodiverse kids, bro.
Mhm.
And we're actually very quirky in the same ways.
Yeah.
But my brother, because, people with autism don't really talk a lot.
Yeah.
So,
and they either like you or they don't.
They either like you or they
Mhm.
don't. And so, but we're touched by so many kids and so many people who are neurodiverse in our sphere. So, man, I love that your books not only highlight that for the kids, but also highlight that for the communities.
To get back to your faith walk, Dorian, I wanted to ask, was there a moment when your faith had to mature beyond what you were taught growing up?
Ooh.
Especially, in your journey to motherhood and the way that you became a mother.
So I'd have to say yes, but my faith matured when God stopped answering immediately.
Mm.
So I have this scripture that I have. It's like, I think it's like, forgive me on this one, I think it's like Galatians 6:9, and it says, do not get weary of good doings, because at the appointed time, and I'm paraphrasing, you'll kind of reap whatever you've been trying to get. So you're doing all this good, or as a mother, or as a wife, as just an individual, you're doing all these things and you're expecting certain results or certain success. And it's like, man, every day I'm getting up and I'm doing this, or I'm waking her up and I'm getting her dressed and I'm feeding and I'm doing all these things, but we don't necessarily see the result. And I think God had to kind of center me to say, listen, I don't work on your timeline. I work when I am ready, and you're putting in the work. Great. And the very end of that scripture says, but don't quit. So you're doing all the things that you know you're supposed to do, and you don't feel like you're seeing the fruits of your labor.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, at the appointed time, I will then give you what you're looking for. But the last three things are, but don't quit.
Mm-hmm.
But
And
don't quit.
Don't quit. Don't quit. And so I think that matured me, because again, even waiting for the adoption, like I said, the pandemic happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so nothing could really happen. And we could either give up on the adoption because, hey, the world is shut down, or we then keep working, keep learning about the child that God is going to give us, keep learning and stepping into spaces. Or you hear people say, well, I'm going to prepare until it happens. So we bought things to prepare ourselves as parents, because my husband and I don't have any kids. So we prepared for it. And just imagine, we would never have her if we did quit somewhere in that process. So the last part is, but don't quit. So that was the maturity part for me, because I wanted that child like now.
Yeah. No,
I needed to prepare you.
Yeah, and you had to stay ready so you don't got to get ready. You just kept getting ready, and then boom, there it is. Love.
Does Dorian know about your unique entrance into motherhood?
I don't know if she saw that episode, but yeah, with our first daughter, Dorian, we were married almost 7 years. We've been married 14 years, so this was before Lana was born. Whoop. But it wasn't 14 years. It wasn't, happening. Like, nothing was wrong with me, nothing was wrong with Wallace. It just wasn't in the cards. So we had given up. Like, I was like, you know what? We'll adopt, because I've always wanted to adopt a baby. So we're like, we'll adopt a baby later on or whatever. So then one day I go to the doctor because I wasn't feeling well. Wallace took me and they tell me that I'm pregnant. And it was urgent care. So she measured my stomach with like a tape measure. And she's like, oh, you seem to be 10 to 12 weeks. Go up to get an ultrasound of your baby. So we call our moms. Everybody's happy again, because everybody's wanting us to have this baby that never came. And I had already said I ain't having no babies or whatever. So everybody was so excited. So then at ultrasound, they tell me that my baby is 7 pounds and that I'm due at any week now. And granted, I was like 40 pounds less than what I am now. So I did not look pregnant at all. And I'm cracking up because I was like, this is so fake. I was like, whack. I don't feel it. I see this baby moving. I'm not pregnant.
It's a hoax.
So they rushed me to the hospital because I haven't had any prenatal care, blah, blah. And I'm still like, when is Ashton Kutcher going to pop out or whatever? So anyway, we get there and I hear this baby heartbeat. They're like strapping me to a whole bunch of stuff. And granted, at urgent care, my blood pressure was normal. Everything was normal. Now at the hospital, it's through the roof. They're like, ma'am, if you don't calm down, we're going to have to like have an emergency C-section. I'm like, how are you going to cut something out of me that's not there? Like, and I'm seeing, again, I'm seeing her moving on the screen and they told me it was a girl. And I was like, well, if this is happening, it has to be a girl. We've only ever had a girl name picked out. We're like, we're not going to be boy parents. This is going to be a girl if it ever happens. Right? So I don't feel her moving, but I see her and they're like that. I have an anterior placenta and all this or whatever. But yeah, I found out I was pregnant at 10:30 in the morning on December 6, 2019. And I had Alana Renee Thomas at 11:10 at night on December 6th.
Wow. That is so amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, and she's healthy. She's in kindergarten. She's reading. She's just on it.
She is the loveliest girl.
The sweetest kid. Just the sweetest.
And just so you know, I'm sure you're going to be doing this work for a very, very long time,
Mm-hmm.
Dorian, but don't be surprised if Alana comes knocking at your door because she is destined to do great things.
Yeah.
Okay?
She
is just, I think her daughter, I think y'all daughters are going to be doing some great things.
Mm-hmm.
All y'all daughters are going to be doing some great things because they are just, they're so blessed and surrounded by people who love them intentionally and fearfully.
But again, Wallace and I, in that season of our lives, again, we did not think we were going to have this baby, but we were living in a basement unit, saving money to buy a house. So we were already like living way below our means. We were saving all this money. So when she came, I was like freaking out because I was like, I have nothing. And Wallace was like, Angie, this baby is just one, a blessing, two, a line item in the budget. Like, it's going to be okay. But she spent a few weeks in the NICU because your first ultrasound gives you gestational age. So she didn't have that. So she was between 32 to 37 weeks was like the estimate. But we were living there. I didn't have anything. But again, I'm the oldest of 6 and my sisters had kids before me. So they set up like this Amazon wish list. She was like, I called your landlord and she went to Target to pick up this was when we went to Target to pick up the car seat stroller. Then I got to let you leave the hospital without a car seat. And I was like, well, I don't know. So like I didn't have to buy anything for Alana for 16 months. So that was December. The pandemic happened in March. I went back to work for 2 days and they sent me home. We didn't have daycare because you don't have to pick your daycare while you're pregnant. You can't just have a daycare. But thankfully, again, everything happened. And Wallace and I joked that the pandemic happened for us because he travels for work. He was out of work for 16 months. So he was the caretaker for Alana while I worked from home. And we didn't have to pay for daycare.
Yeah.
And we had everything we needed for 16 months. So we just hunkered down, the 3 of us and the dog. But this ain't about me. This is about Dorian.
Well,
that's an amazing story. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, added to that, Dorian, I actually, while you were speaking, Andy, made me wonder, how did your family respond to the news once the pandemic was over, or being seen through, the adoption was going through? Like, how was that transition for you?
Yeah, and did they know that that's what you wanted to do, like, or was it a surprise to them?
So I'd say right before the pandemic, I saw my side of the family, and I was in Florida. That's where they have all retired to now.
Oh, yeah.
And so I kind of told them one by one, and they were so happy for us because, again, we had been 5 years in, we're 10 now, but we had not, we were trying, we were considering in vitro, we were doing all these things and it just wasn't working for us. And so when we told them, they were so excited. But there's always that West Indian part, like adoption.
Yeah.
Do you know someone? Do you want to go to Jamaica and find a family that would? And we were like, no, we're not going through those process where, we were going to go through an agency. And so they struggled with not necessarily the adoption part, but the agency part, not realizing that even through the agency, there were things that the agency was preparing us for. And there were things that they did that most people, I guess, if you did it, let's say direct, like you knew someone, there could be certain things that happens in that process. Like there's something called disruption, where the birth parents decide to adopt. I mean, not adopt, but they decide to actually be the parent of their child. The struggle is that you're not buying a child. And so you're helping the birth parent. And if they decide to, you could be disappointed, but you can't be mad. You can't demand the money back, because you weren't buying the child.
Yeah. There's no protection.
Correct. And so with the agency, there's a little bit more protection. They don't even let us know that we're officially chosen until, like, we didn't know we were chosen until a week before she was born. Like,
Wow.
her birthday is the 11th, so January 11th. We found out on the 6th that that we were chosen, and they do that on purpose because the birth parents can start to ask for things, and you wanting to make sure that they're protected and that they're doing things okay. You tend to give that, and so this agency says no. We do that. We protect them. We make sure that they have the healthcare they need. If there's something they need, we do that. So you're not actually, it's not transactional where I'm giving you $100 a day or I'm giving you $300 to help you pay your rent. They are securing that if you have struggles that you can. The other part that I love about them is that in each and every state, there's a certain period of time that the birth parent can change their mind. So they can sign the document. And in the state of Maryland, which is where we were living at the time, the birth parents has 30 days to change their mind. They could call it, post, they can call it, but like, oh no, I really want my child back. The agency does not allow for the child to come home with us during that time frame.
Oh, that's good.
Which is awesome, because imagine I'm taking off time from work. I'm now going to bond with this baby. And then on the 29th day or even the 30th day, they say, I want my child. Legally, I have to. And now you spent all that time. So this agency, which was really awesome, they actually have someone that actually takes care of the baby during that time.
Oh, that's good, because if the baby was with the birth parents, they might also get attached and change their mind. So it's like,
and if they don't, if they're saying they can't do it and they are taking care of the baby, you kind of, not saying that they would hurt the baby, but that you put that child in a bad situation.
That's fair. Yeah.
So that's how they did it. And so I appreciate that they did that, because we got to visit her, but she didn't come home with us. And if the birth parents wanted closure, they would also get a chance to see the baby, which they did, and have that closure, and, kind of see if they want to change their mind. Yeah. So I appreciate those little things that in some states they don't do that, or some agencies don't. And then whatever that time frame is in their state, they're like, I want my baby.
All right, shout out Maryland.
Yeah, shout out to Maryland, because that is really progressive.
Yeah,
I've heard horror stories from Julie about how that can happen.
Right, and even with like the training that you all had to take with if you adopted a baby of a different culture, like make sure that you incorporate the culture. I love that. Yeah. Maryland's on it.
There was even that's not all. I'll have to say, Barker is the name of the adoption. They do that. Not all adoption agencies do that. Okay. They even strongly encourage that if you, they even have training on how to braid hair and how to comb hair.
What?
Because it's hey, Maryland, they know their demographic.
Yeah, you're not going to.
It would be horrible to have a child that you don't know how to care for that child's hair. And sending that child in to school or out in the public
looking rough.
I love that. Well, you know what? Julie would love to have this conversation, because she said her mom used to just she didn't know what to do with their hair, so she just chopped it off. And these are 3 little Hispanic babies. But I mean, look, she did the best that she could with what you knew. And you have to keep in mind, this is like the 80s and 90s. There wasn't nobody thinking about cultural competency.
Exactly. No, they were like, let's get these babies to homes. That was like it. That's the mission. We're going to do it. Accomplished. They weren't thinking long term. How is this baby going to feel at school, you know, with their hair chopped off versus put in a nice ponytail or something?
Well, eventually she got him like she
like
found
the
a
nanny.
hairdresser.
Oh, okay, nice.
That could actually know what to do with the hair. So, man, good on Maryland. Maryland is
I love it.
Is doing their thing.
Now, granted, I didn't take that class, but I appreciate the fact that they did have that class.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe you didn't need it. You know, maybe you.
I was braiding my sister's hair from when I have a younger sister, so she was my doll, and so I learned how to braid. I learned how to braid on her hair, so I was taking care of hair as a teenager. But I appreciate the fact that they did have different types of classes, and understanding that I could end up with a child that maybe was biracial. How am I going to care for a child's hair that doesn't necessarily look like mine? And so
that's a good point.
Offered all of that. So.
And we all know how important hair is to Black people, particularly Black women, young Black queens. Why do I say this? I don't know if you knew this about me, Dorian. You probably did, but I'm a retired state trooper. And when we were going through the academy back in 2017, it was required for all women and men. They don't even tell you to shave your head or to cut your hair. They'll do it for you when you get there. You have to bring $6.75 or something like that. Very specific.
That's what the barber charges?
Yeah, with the change. You got to have the change in one hand, the nickels, the coins in one hand, and the bills in one. Stupid. And so what was really difficult for me to see was we didn't have any, I think we had maybe one or two Black women, but there were Afro-Latina women who they came and they just, shave your head off.
They shave the girls' hair too?
They shave their head, not like bald.
Yeah, just like a pixie cut type.
Yeah. So like a really, you know what I'm saying? And so they ended up changing that policy because enough people started advocating on the job, and they said, like, listen, you don't understand Black women's hair. Black women's hair don't grow that fast. So if you chop that whole thing off, that's like, she might not have that length for like another 5 or 6 years. And so, you know, it might sound shallow to some, and there were obviously a lot of groanings on the job about it. Yeah. But it is integral to our personality. And so when an adoption agency takes the steps to help the adoptive parents, not making assumptions, care for that child, meet them where they are, and honor, that's you, them helping you, honor their heritage.
Yep, that's you caring for the whole child. Yeah. Not just their living situation.
Exactly. So, and that brings us one last question we got for you, Dorian, because we could just yap and dap because it's the Caribbean up in here. We got Jamaica, DR, we got, you know what I'm saying, Cuba, we got Haiti up in here. We could talk all day. But here's a question I want for you to answer for our audience. And the question is this, simply. What legacy are you most interested not in leaving, because we were going to say leaving, but I don't believe that we leave a legacy, because leaving a legacy don't do nothing. What legacy are you most interested in living? Not just for yourself, not just for your children, but for the families who encounter you in your work. What is the legacy that you want to live for them to see?
I think I want to be very intentional about communication and conversation. Too many families, even in my own, conversations or having family meetings was really what didn't happen. Or we sat around the table, but we didn't really have just raw conversations. And I think my books or anyone else's, it is important that we allow for our children to organically kind of talk and kind of what's on your mind. What are you struggling with? And so all of the books really try to, one, build them up, but also try to create a line of communication with their parent. And so that when they are struggling with something, and even if parents don't know, someone has told me it's not okay to say it, but it's okay to say, I'm not sure. I don't know. Because you're human. I'll find out and we could have this conversation again. But to really just let them know that, A, you're human and that there can be an organic relationship. I feel like I have a stronger relationship with my mom, but I love my dad, but we could only talk about very specific things. Whereas
Right.
my mom, I could talk to her about any and everything. And so I don't necessarily want that for kids. I think it is important that if you eventually have a girl child, lad, or you know what I mean, or that they can come to you and talk to you about anything. And when I say anything, I do mean anything. And you
Anything.
feel comfortable, and that they know, hey, my dad, my mom is going to be really honest about it. If they don't know, they're going to find out about it. And so I think legacy is that they have that line of communication, and from a child all the way up to adulthood, that they're struggling with something, they figure out a way to kind of create that communication. So that's, I think, for me, and that's what all of my books have. Some of the books, even at the end of it, it's like, well, here's how you talk about grief. So like one of my books is
Oh,
about a
yeah.
little girl
That's
who
good.
goes through grief of losing her grandfather, and they go through the 5 stages of grief. But at the very end, because it's such a big topic, there is a letter to parents to say, hey, beyond this, here's some things that you can do. But grief can be even tougher than what you're listing here. Here's how you can get some professional help to help you and your child navigate losing a loved one, and understanding that the stages of grief that we as adults go through, kids go through it in their own way. And we have to be able to understand it, recognize it, and have the communication with them. If they're going through depression, kids go through that. How do we then navigate those things? And so I was very intentional about adding additional resources in the back of some of those books, because it doesn't end with just the book. That's just the beginning. That's the beginning of the conversation. So my books are really to start and spark conversation amongst families, or in school, or wherever it's being read.
I love it.
I know. Oh, that's so great. Yeah, because I feel like growing up, we definitely heard stay in a child's place. So you don't feel like you can speak to your parents about certain topics because it's like you're just a kid. But kids are just little adults. You just have to frame things to something they can understand. So I love that, Dorian.
Thank you.
Kids are little people. That's how I look at it. We all people. They're just little people with a little less experience.
Yeah.
And they need some guidance. And what I love about this too is that, especially within the Black and brown communities, and specifically communities that have been touched by imperialism, there has been a generational, dare I say, almost like a preference, or it's a coping mechanism. Let's just call it what it is. Way back in the day, when our ancestors would see things that were atrocious, they would watch each other get beaten, they would watch each other get assaulted, and all sorts of things. There was no time to grieve. Right?
You gotta move on.
And grief wasn't rewarded with comfort. It was rewarded with more grief, right? And so as now we're fast forwarding 500, 600 years later, you have and I'm just going to speak from the Caribbean perspective, people don't talk about things. They just pick it up and move on. And so what does that look like generationally if the conversations aren't being had raw and the access isn't there? You're just kicking the can down the road, but instead of a road, you're kicking it down generations upon generations. So now you've got a little girl who grows up to be a grown woman who still doesn't understand who her grandmammy is.
Vlad, literally people, and I could only speak about Dominicans specifically, but they'll tell you the most horrific story and be like, but I'm doing good, thank God.
With a straight face.
With a straight face.
Not a fear, not an emotion.
No, but I'm doing good, praise the Lord. Oh, okay. Are you though? Or is that just what you think I want to hear?
I think it's what they want to hear.
Yeah, what they wish they could hear. Yeah.
And the struggle is that if you keep sweeping things under the rug, at some point there's going to be a lump in that rug that you are going to have to, unfortunately, either trip over and address, and it just becomes a bigger problem. You can't keep sweeping big emotions under a rug or hiding it or holding it in. At some point, it's going to want to come out, whether you allow it to come out by talking to someone about it, whether it be professionally or with someone that you trust, or it's going to come out on its own. You don't want it to come out on its own. That's why they tell you it's important for you to grieve, because if not, you could stub your toe and all of a sudden all the emotions start to come out. And so it's important for us to teach our kids about addressing what may be bothering them or struggling with them, And if they want to keep talking about it, Lord help me with my 4-year-old, we leave space for that, because if not, she's then going to think it's the rule is to hold it in, keep it inside, bottle it in. And at some point it's going to come out, and not in the nicest way.
I'm a huge fan of analogies.
I love that rug.
I love that rug. Can we borrow that from you, Dorian? Because that
absolutely.
If you sweep things under the rug, there's going to be a lump, and then you're going to have, and eventually you're going to trip and have to address it. Come on.
When you don't want to.
That's it. That's the podcast.
Gotta go. Close the shop down.
Now we know why you do what you do, Dorian.
Yes.
If we don't say it and we haven't said it, thank you for all that you do and all of who you are.
And thank you for coming on our show. That's 19 books deep, Vlad.
That's 19 books deep.
Love it.
I don't know. Maybe this conversation might spark a 20th. I'm looking for 20th Century Fox. Like
I will tell you. So the I Am Made is coming. I mean, there's more stories coming, but one of the things that I also want to address is that we're going to put our books in different languages. So there will be a Spanish, there will be Haitian Creole, there will be French, so that other people can read the stories. That inspired, because I did write one book with that was Haitian inspired. And then I realized, like, hey, I really need to write books that they can read on their own and kind of read it in their own language. And so that's what I did. So I wrote one that's Spanish inspired and one that's Haitian inspired. But then the thought came, why aren't you putting all the books in Spanish or in French or in Haitian Creole? So that is something that will be coming out. And I don't know if that counts as another book or just an extension of a book.
That's another book.
That's another creation.
We say that in when kids are learning to speak, if they say a word in 2 languages, that's 2 words.
That's 2 words.
It's not one word. It's 2 words. Those are 2 books, girl. Yes.
I love it. I love it. And you already know it goes without saying, but if you ever delve into the realm of audiobooks and you need somebody to speak some Haitian Creole, or
Vladimir is
your boy.
What's it called? A voiceover. He does voiceovers and
I am a voice
books.
actor. Yes. Voices by Vlad. So I think if you know, I love supporting Black businesses, and I love the fact that we can have this conversation and it's going to reach many people who need to hear it. So, Dorian, thank you. Before we let you go, let our audience know, where can they find you? Where can they follow you and follow your work?
Yes. Absolutely. So I am on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram, and it's all Dorian.Inspires.
Dorian.Inspires. Okay, we're gonna put the links to that in the show notes.
Yes. So, and I also have a website as well, because I do motivational speaking, and so you can find me at DorianInspires.com. So I try to make it simple across the board. So DorianInspires.com, Dorian.Inspires. Go ahead and follow me, please.
And
on all the things.
The key, right, is that Dorian inspires. And how do we know this? Because I am inspired by this. I know
this was such a great conversation and great first guest of 2026.
Yeah, what a way to kick off 2026, man. With an experienced author. So listen, for those of you who are listening, thank you for tuning into this episode. Dorian, it is a pleasure to have you, and we welcome you back, because I feel like I said, yappers ain't stoppers. We got to keep having this conversation, okay? Because there's so much more to delve into. But thank you for stopping by into the Roots of Rhythm studio, having the conversation. Yes. For those of you, just to review what we were talking about, Dorian Stewart is an author, motivational speaker, and the founder of Dorian Inspires. Check out her work, yo, and share it with your family, because we are definitely going to be including your book in our libraries here.
Yes.
All right. So for those of you who are listening, you know what time it is. Like, follow, and subscribe. Holla at your girl, Dorian Stewart. And don't forget to put Roots and Rhythm in your catalog of podcasts. It's your boy, Vlad the Bull, your #1 Embrace coach.
And Angie, La Cyber Mommy.
And
Dorian Stewart from Dorian Stewart Inspires.
Let's go. We are out of here.
Stay rooted.
Thank you for listening to the Roots and Rhythm podcast. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe so you can stay notified for all our updates, including new episodes. Until next time, y'all, stay rooted.
this watch, so it's counting my steps. It's pretty cool. But I need new tennis shoes, Vlad. I've had my tennis shoes since probably before Lana was born. So do you have any recommendations? I know you're on your fitness all the time.
I used to think that you had to spend at least $150 on shoes, sis, in order for you to actually get some quality ones. But I'm telling you, these new shoes that I tried out, it's like you're walking on air. Matter of fact, you don't even remember you're walking on them at all. It's like you don't even remember you put your shoes on. One time I thought I was barefoot. I'm like, yo, where my shoes at?
Oh, I love that. And are they light?
Oh, they're super lightweight. They make my old shoes feel like dumbbells by comparison. I'm telling you, these shoes are comfortable, they're lightweight, and it doesn't even feel like you have them on. And on top of that, you can wear them anywhere. They're designed for people who are on their feet all the time, for the moms and dads who are chasing around the kids. So I would highly recommend them if you're looking for something new.
So what are they called and where can I get them?
You can get them at standplus.com. You go to standplus.com, put in our promo code 80X for an exclusive discount off of your next pair. They are the best all-day recovery shoes, so go ahead and get you a pair.
I'm excited. Thank you, Vlad.
Come on, let's do it.